My Own Garms.
It's like, oh, you're wearing charity or you're wearing pre-love. That's like, you know, a dying grandma or like something. Maybe not put that on. Yeah, fashion.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then for a corporate house to just come and snatch it up and make thousands of our designs, it is heartbreaking. And it's like, we are competing with monsters. We are competing with like sharks.
Yes, my mates, what's good with you lot? I'm Thomas Griffin, and this right here is My Own Garms. On this ep, we're chatting with Mia Williams from the 70s inspired fashion brand MadSeventies. Mia does it properly. Everything about her exudes 70s cool, and her forward-looking, eco-friendly takes on nostalgia have been turning heads and adorning the chicest shoulders in music and showbiz for the best part of a decade. Providing a mixture of vintage and reworked pieces, originally through a mega successful Depop account and now on a D2C platform, Mia's eye for detail and appreciation of culture and craft shine through. I met Mia years ago at a basement runway show in Stoke Newington, and I can't wait to see where she and the brand are up to today. Now, if you buzz off My Own Garms, then show us some love on the Patreon. It's dead easy to use, and it's a really direct way that you can support what we do and help us make some more episodes. As of this recording time, we've chalked up £16.65 in total on there. So if you can spare us the price of a bev each month to pay us for the work we do, it'd be massively appreciated. You get bonus clips and all that good stuff too, so you know it makes sense. Anyway, let's crack on with this ep. This is My Own Garms with Mia MadSeventies. Mia, nice one for coming up. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. When I first started My Own Garms, I put together a little deck and mocked up some kind of social posts, and Mia's picture was one of the three people. In fact, I think the only one that I've actually managed to make happen out of those three. So you have been...
oh, I feel so honoured.
Yeah. Up in London, working?
Yes, I've reworked some garments for a band, and we did some content around it, and now I'm here, and then I'm heading back to my Brighton bubble soon.
Hectic. Sounds so idyllic, escaping to Brighton. I've got a mate down there, and he was sending pictures of us, of him just popping out of the sea yesterday. I was like, oh, Brighton is so sick in the... Like any season, really. It seems to like own itself in any season.
I'm still not used to the pebbles.
Okay.
For me, I grew up by the sea where there's, you know, gold sand going miles and miles, where I'm just like, I need to get used to, you know, sitting on the pebbles instead of golden sand.
You're going to end up with tough, calloused feet so you can deal with the Brighton harsh beaches.
Yeah.
Tell us, you look amazing today. Like,
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the fit.
So this is quite a classical dressed down look, I would say. The trousers are suede and it's pre-loved, of course. I'm very much into like a low-rise era, weirdly. It's almost like, I don't know, it's just kind of that with like a tank top. I don't know, maybe I'm going through like a bit of a fashion crisis at the moment.
Tell me about low rise, because I mean, I know a little bit more than the general population about fashion, but I don't know much. Low rise is where the waistline sits on your...
It's below
hips.
the belly button.
Okay.
But they can be really bad low rise, like way too low rise.
Aguilera. Yeah? Where you have to do some toe puree to make it socially acceptable.
Yeah, when the underwear starts showing, I'm like, oh no, this is too low rise. So I can't actually tell you much because this is very much a new phase I'm tapping into. I guess my trousers always been more fitted, but some days it's just also nice to not feel like it's just all hugging too much. And I'm kind of like into almost like Coyote Ugly. Is it Coyote Ugly, that movie?
Yeah, the one where they dance on the bar.
Yeah, like low-rise leopard leathers and like tank tops. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And then I just, of course, paired it with a pre-loved blazer as well.
So blazer is, from my outside perspective, a very, very MadSeventies item.
It's a very MadSeventies. It's
has been for a long time.
Yes. So many people have asked me, they're like, if there's one piece of outfit or garment that you have to wear for the rest of your life, I would say a suit, but if I have to choose, then I would say a blazer, because an oversized blazer, because I also feel like it's got this masculine feel, but also it's still very feminine. And then you can wear it in many, many, many ways. I think that's always been my goal in wearing clothing, is to show how to wear a piece in more than one way.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that kind of bleeds into the eco side of it as well.
Yeah.
Less but better kind of thing, or less but more flexible kind of thing.
Yes, yeah.
But everything is on point tonally. Don't think I've not noticed the nails.
Oh my God, don't look. This was just kind of a very impulsive, I guess I've just gone outfit to match the nails in a sense.
Yeah.
A little bit of like self-love.
Yeah, it goes a long way, doesn't it? I think
goes a long way.
Making sure you do those things for yourself, like making sure your socks pop with your top. You know, that's probably my equivalent of painting my nails a similar tone palette to my outfit. But yeah, it's them kind of things that do make you yourself feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
I mentioned in the intro about what MadSeventies is. It's kind of hard to delineate between the person and the brand. I personally love it when someone makes their deep clothing passions into their creative and professional work. Was it an organic and gradual process to turn what you love into kind of what you do?
Wow, that is quite the question, because I guess fashion for me, I guess this is not very much the answer, but this is kind of where it extends from, is being growing up in a very small town in South Africa. I was more than one Mia in the same class from primary all the way up, and I guess I always struggled to kind of fit in, but then also I didn't want to fit in. And I guess I turned to fashion in a sense to kind of create my own identity. And also we couldn't really afford the mainstream fashion that the small town had to offer, but also I didn't want to wear it. So I was like, I need to find another solution.
Yeah.
And then I found the Salvation Army, which people were like, oh my God, you just don't shop there. And I went there and I found like the most incredible pieces, because no one, of course, goes there and buys it. And I guess from there on, it's definitely, I feel like it's been very organic from a very young age. But then moving to London, I guess, was really the starting point of what MadSeventies is. On my Saturdays, I would go and source an outfit and share it on Instagram and just say, you know, this is my look for under £10.
Yeah.
People just really loved it. And I loved sharing that with everyone. I guess that's how MadSeventies evolved.
Yeah,
and then I went from there onto depop and just kind of grew and grew and grew.
Yeah. It sounds very linear, very natural evolution, I think.
Yeah.
So when you first came up with the name, it wasn't a shop, it was more of a representation of you in the shop. Gradually happened after that.
Yes. Someone was like, you are mad about the 70s. And I was like, oh, MadSeventies. Yeah. That's quite cool.
It works.
And that's kind of, I guess, when I decided on that name for my Instagram, is kind of like where I started my identity journey.
Yeah. Has it ever felt like, I've heard people that have brands named after their own name say that they love imbuing what they do with themselves, but that it can feel kind of tying as well. Do you think that the lack of gap between the professional and the personal for you has ever felt like a difficult thing to deal with? Does it
firstly, that means running two social platforms, which I just can't do.
Yeah, one takes up enough time.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And again, maybe in my subconscious mind, I was like, I was tied down to this Mia person back home. And I guess moving to London, I just kind of wanted to have a bit of a new identity.
Yeah.
And I think MadSeventies was that. And I think it's got a bit of a mysteriousness to it.
Yeah.
Because people would see me in the street and they'd be like, oh, MadSeventies. And I'm like, oh, I forget that some people only know me as MadSeventies and not Mia.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've met you today and had the first proper conversation we've had, and I think I've been talking to our mutual friend Hannah about you, and I think I've always referred to you as MadSeventies.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I get to read the real Mia.
Yeah.
Rep your ends.
As you mentioned there, you were born in South Africa. Tell us about your early clothing influences growing up there.
Definitely my dad's record collection.
Yeah.
I guess that and my mum's wardrobe, even my dad. I think I was just so frustrated with what was to offer. And also, I guess when you're so young, you want to fit in, which means you wear the clothing that your friends are wearing. And
which was what at the time?
Oh.
Yeah, mate, you should have thinking about it.
Jeggings, spaghetti tops,
All right.
boob tubes. I mean, I don't have anything against it.
Sounds kind of fun, you know.
It's got, I guess it was like that almost Spice Girl era.
Right. Yeah.
For me, I was desperately trying to find my own identity.
Yeah. As a lot of kids are, you know, I think everyone at 14, well, the majority of people
it's
at 14,
so hard
15 is on that search.
Yeah. It's really hard being young and, you know, from the three Mias, they both had blonde hair, blonde sleek hair, and I was the one with curly dark hair.
Who are the three Mias?
Who was the three?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, your three split person. Right. Okay. So these images that you'd created of.
No, there was actual two other Mias.
Okay, right.
In my school from primary all the way to high school.
Okay.
And I just never fit in. For me, that was really hard. It was very hard because, especially being in a small town, you want to fit in.
Yeah.
As much as you, like, I don't care. We all, when you're young, you want to fit in because it just makes life so much easier getting through school, which I absolutely hated as well because, of course, I just decided I am not doing the mainstream. And, yeah, peer pressure was also, I've never fallen under peer pressure, which was a big thing. You know, you're cool if you do what is being told. And I always kicked against that. So I guess fashion-wise, that was my outlet to being different. I wouldn't say that made it easier because it's like, oh, you're wearing charity or you're wearing pre-love. That's like, or you're, you know, a dying grandma or like something. Maybe not put that on. But
no, I'll put it on. But that made you, even though it didn't make you fit in, it made you feel more true to yourself kind of thing. More, you could square it with yourself better than.
Exactly. I think I couldn't communicate how frustrating high school was and school in general and the people I was surrounded by, that without having to communicate that, I chose fashion and that was my way of expressing who I am as a person.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your parents, because you mentioned record collections and wardrobes there. Were they big into fashion in the 70s? Did they have what every kind of parent that's lived through that era has in the wardrobe?
I think they all have cool fashion. I think all our parents.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back at their photos, you know, like little tennis shorts and white socks and trainers, like they just looked cool. We tried to pull that off now and we just don't get that right.
Yeah.
So my mum and dad was definitely very stylish. My mum also has like big curly hair and she would, you know, wear these bright pink dresses, which is definitely not my thing. But looking, and I guess the record collection, but then also just looking back at photos of them was just like such an inspiration. And I think for me, dancing was quite a big thing. I think even when I was a baby, my dad would always dance with me and like Elvis Presley and the Beatles.
So he got moves?
He's got moves, and that's where I got my weird... Shout out to my dad. That's where I got my moves. Definitely I got my moves from. We're like these lanky, weird octopus, you know, that's kind of our movements or, you know, our style.
Do you think he taught you to move with freedom and expression and
Absolutely.
flow? Yeah, beautiful.
Absolutely. He's, and when he dances, he's just really enjoying himself and he's doing it for himself. And that's kind of what I adapted. And music and fashion kind of has been a big thing for me. And the two of those genres have kind of really influenced MadSeventies.
I know you mentioned getting stuff from your mum's wardrobe and your dad's wardrobe there, and a lot of the work that you you know, a lot of kids go and, like, I remember trying on my mum's big boots when I was little, and that's probably the last time I experimented with not particularly gendered fashion.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that you do, you mentioned like the more masculine shapes of blazers and things like that. Do you think dipping into both of those wardrobes when you were little sowed the seeds for that maybe?
Definitely. I think I'll try to send you the picture, but like when I was really, really small, I wore like my mum's green dress and I wore these heels. It's the most hilarious. It literally, that photo just shows like how much I appreciate fashion and how much I love it.
Yeah.
And then I guess I would dip into my dad's wardrobe and do more like oversized looks. And I guess that's where the oversized men's shirt kind of came in. How can I wear it in a different way? Can I wear it as a dress? Can I wear it the wrong way around and belt it? And then kind of mix it with my mum's wardrobe as well. So they didn't like it because once I go in, I just like chuck everything.
You're not hanging them back up, yeah. Do you still operate like that, or you've got a rigorous, strict wardrobe regime?
I wish I did. I wouldn't say I'm like the tidiest person. I guess also when you have too much, it's really hard to like keep everything in place. But I have found a strategy of like not having cupboards, but rather just railings.
Okay.
And just hang. So
you're constantly surrounded by the thing that you love.
I've got kimonos as like, wall decoration. I don't have much furniture, but I've got shitloads of fashion hanging everywhere.
Half of my life seems to be putting clothes away. It's probably even more so in your case.
This is the frustrating thing.
I've not even worn this many outfits. What are all these clothes doing out? And it's like a half a day endeavour to get things back in order.
I know. And it takes so long to get it all back, and it takes a second to just have it all back on the floor.
I'm glad I'm not the only one on that front.
A railing and hangers is your way forward.
Okay. We mentioned music there and dancing. I know it's a massive part of MadSeventies, both in terms of the muses that you draw on for inspiration. You mentioned David Bowie in the intro. And the people who buy your products. You said you've been out working with a band on some stuff this week. Was there any particular musician that you looked up to, maybe other than Bowie, when you were young? For fashion inspo and music.
I mean, it's such a cliche, but like Debbie Harry.
Okay.
I think Debbie Harry was like the chicest. I loved, I guess that the leather looks was just, I couldn't pull that off at that age. I don't think it was very appropriate for 16-year-olds to wear like, leather garments. But that's definitely something that I fully incorporated into my outfits. And then I guess Elvis Presley, very much of the 1950s or 40s where suits was a big, classic suits with a pop of like orange dagger collar. There's been so many musicians that's inspired me, but I would definitely say from the 80s it would be Debbie Harry.
Yeah.
And then
she's
the
so
70s,
photogenic. Like,
so photogenic.
I've said it before on this podcast when one of the other, we had an artist on, he said the favourite picture he'd ever drawn was Debbie Harry. It's like every angle, every shot. And,
she's iconic.
Yeah.
She's absolutely iconic. And she's, I guess also I was very drawn to these artists because I also know that their lives weren't as smooth sailing, being a musician, trying to make it, performing, but hardly making any money from it, the living, the circumstances and where they were living and that period. It was all very challenging. And I guess I kind of saw myself in that era, and it was almost like a way for me to kind of be like, well, I'm where they used to be.
Okay.
And this is just, this is just going to get better, basically.
Yeah. And dressing your way through that, like dressing for that story, I guess is inspiring as well. You can see pictures of them all the way back and they always look cool, so do it yourself.
Yeah.
We've touched on it a couple of times already, but you live down in Brighton now, right? A fairly recent move within the last year.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about Brighton and the types of clothes you might see people wearing there, maybe that you wouldn't have seen in London.
I think there's so much diversity in Brighton. I think Brighton is definitely a place for you to express yourself and for people to be okay with it.
Okay.
which I love. That for me is like, I guess this is also another part why I love Brighton so much. So you get from waterproof jackets to feathers and pink cowboy hats, you know.
The hen and stag do you wear, are we talking, or like people wearing...
Every weekend there's like a hen party coming down the road with like cowboy hats.
Let me just touch on that a sec. Why is it, do you know why hen do's? Is it like a sex thing? Are you meant to be riding? Is it a rodeo thing? Like, why is the cowboy hat so ubiquitously hen do-ish?
I don't know. I love a cowboy hat, but even when I had my, past bachelorette party, I was like, I'm not doing a cowboy hat.
It's normally
I'd rather
penis earrings and cowboy hat. Like.
I was like, no blow up things. Literally, just I want a classy situation. But each to their own. I think it is such a big milestone to get married, so you do you, whether that's
okay, well, I'm going to do my own research.
But I guess it is that wild, it is that kind of wild factor of being like, just wild out in town, just like living the last few days of
freedom.
I don't know, it's not my
we'll do some research into that. Get back to your audience.
Other than that, in Brighton, I think there's quite a heavy punk scene.
Okay.
I've been to quite a few parties where I rock up in washed out denim flares in a white tee, so very 1970s California, and the rest of the crowd is like, leather corsets and like, I'm like, I do not fit in here. But
and we're talking the kind of original era of punk, like Mohicans and studs rather than the Green Day. Offspring
definitely definitely studs and like full on leather looks, and I love the leather. I think that's it's probably not something I'll tap into. Again, I like to balance things out, so I won't do like full on leather looks, but it's got this like freeness for people to express themselves, and I always find people just walking past people that inspires me, or I'll be like, oh, that's quite nice. Where I feel like there's definitely more judging in a city like London, where in Brighton there's that free will and just be who you are. And for me, that's really important.
Yeah. Has people watching long been an inspiration for you?
Which people?
Like, sitting and watching the world go by.
Oh, that is my favourite thing to do, is...
on your own with a coffee, like...
Exactly.
Pretending you're reading a book when you're in oversized sunglasses.
Exactly. I think for me, I find more inspiration in like everyday people, and that is probably one of my favorite pastimes, just to sit and watch people, and especially Brighton is perfect for it. I've got my little hubs of coffee shops where I've got my corner coffee shop where I know this is the best spot to watch people.
I think seafront towns that have literally a promenade that people will walk up and down might be particularly geared towards good people watching, because
yes and no. I think it's also that thing of like, I do not go where the tourist goes.
Right.
So for me, it's more, I think that's where I've kind of found my friends as well, is in the places that is not the tourist attractions, cute little coffee shops in alleyways and stuff. So I mean, there's a good buzz in Brighton, and there's good fashion. I wouldn't say I love all of it, but again, it's just nice when people. I love it when people feel like I feel safe enough to wear whatever I want to wear.
Nice. You've been doing 70s inspired things for a long time now, like approaching a decade, and the last few years, from my perspective, I've seen a boom in popularity in that. Like, you look at the last couple of series of Sex Education on Netflix, and they're very, very 70s inspired, and a lot of the kids are watching that and obviously drawing from the same pool of inspiration. Does that make your sourcing job, is it slimmer pickings in the charity shops, and also is Brighton more of an untapped source for that compared to London? Would you have to?
Yes, I definitely. I think you are finding more 80s, where I think 70s is kind of slowly moving out.
Okay.
But saying that, big corporate houses, the 70s is always going to come back. Sadly, it's just not the right way. And I guess in London especially, I think when everyone realized, global warming, climate crisis has happened many years already, but, the government's only really touched on this like a few years ago and really trying to make us aware that this is happening. And suddenly everyone was like, oh, I really need to think of what I want to buy and what I should, how I invest or buy my clothing. But at the same time, it's also, this is the sad thing for me. It's like platforms like Depop and even charity shops, they've put up their prices. It's become oversaturated in a sense. Sourcing and finding those 70s pieces is much, much harder.
Yeah.
Even going to warehouses, you find more 80s now than 70s, which is like...
Do you think it's just the distance we are away from the time that the garments are just reaching the end of their natural lifespan?
I think so. I think that's Brighton is definitely, it's smaller.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of 70s because I still think the community that loves the 70s is much smaller than what is in London, possibly.
Yeah.
There's a big like mod 60s scene in Brighton, and then you've got your post-punk where I think 70s just kind of still falls in between, where there's still enough to go around in a sense.
Maybe the people have moved. A lot of people when they get to a certain age move out of the bigger cities like London, and Brighton is one of the destinations that people kind of retire to or move out to for their 50s and 60s, and they're probably more likely to have that kind of stuff in the wardrobe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess even when I do source, I don't only specifically look for 70s.
Yeah.
I just kind of look at the element, I look at the shape, the material. I'm trying to always think like, how can I provide this to a bigger audience, and I'm just trying to make this a bit more, not mainstream, but still to kind of give anyone that, you don't have to be 70s to buy from MadSeventies.
Yeah.
You can be, like more classics, or you might not even be in the 60s, 70s, and, even 90s era, but still the pieces I buy and kind of provide on my website, you can turn into fit your look and your aesthetic, basically.
Yeah. I read in a really old interview with you in Clash.
God.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That a kind of will to be eccentric was one of the things that pushed you towards 70s shapes and styles. And we did touch on that when you were talking about South Africa and how you were using those styles to differentiate yourself from what you didn't like.
Yeah.
More recently, the decade has become a more ubiquitous reference point for a lot of brands. You mentioned the big fashion houses there. I think the last few years I've seen more references, or what I recognise as 70s references. Do you feel that you have to do more to stand out these days, or do you think that the way that you do things authentically, like getting things from that period, will always shine through? I
truly believe that if you stick to what has worked from the start is what you need to keep doing. And I think I've learned throughout the years where it's like, oh, this is not working, or I'm not making enough sales, I need to change my approach, or I need to, do something different. But I honestly do believe in order for you to stand out is to do what works for you.
For you.
There was a reason why it worked in the beginning, and I think just to stick with that. I think, and just to keep with your morals and values. I think that's really important. I've had so many opportunities to work with brands that's just not in line with my morals and values, which could have gotten me good money, or good opportunities, or get to certain places quicker. But I had to say no, because I just can't go against what I believe in, and I truly believe it will damage my brand. Yeah,
I mean, financially, you play the long game. You probably are right, but there's a lot to be said about you yourself sleeping well at night, isn't there, and doing what you feel is authentic and right for yourself. I
think for me, the biggest thing is that basically, these corporate houses is the biggest damage to our planet at the moment. And unfortunately, because they've got the funds, they've got the teams, it just works, and they just keep doing what they're doing. And I guess for me, knowing those co-workers making the fashion that's being exploited, like I can never, ever just accept that.
Yeah.
It's hard to stand out from the crowd. It's definitely harder now as well, because I think when I started MadSeventies, when I went onto Depop, I was one of the few, probably out of the 3, that really tapped into the 70s fashion, and it was so much harder to grow and kind of explode, growing to 500,000 followers in the space of 3 years, which I still don't know how I did it, but I guess it was because I found that niche and there wasn't many of us there.
I want to come back to the big brands thing in a minute, but I think it might be cool to talk about Depop now. It must have been pretty amazing to see those numbers ticking up like so quickly.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane.
I am a peripheral Depopper. I've sold bits and bobs. I've bought more than I've sold on there.
I think you messaged me once and you're like,
yeah, I was
asking me advice.
It's like, how do I get to 5 million?
Because I looked up at our messages and I just want to remember, like, where did this link come from?
Yeah, and you said, very good start. It looks very curated. if you want advice, go and ask the Queen of Depop. Right? But yeah, the growth must have been mad. Like,
it was
to get 500,000 in 6 months. Did you say?
No, I think it was over a period of like 2-3 years.
Yeah. Okay, but still, that is like thousands or tens of thousands a day.
Yeah.
And it's still one of the few retail places that's more like social media. I mean, eBay's been about a bit. Vinted is the new kid on the block in the past few months.
Yeah.
But Depop, it does allow you to create a feeling, create a aesthetic, create a kind of community on there. Did you enjoy the community element of it? Was it a lot to manage? Like,
I guess when the hard work came in was to start modeling it, because I would, hang things on hangers. I just wouldn't sell. And that, I'm talking about a pair of pre-loved Levi jeans for £13. I'm like, who does not buy it?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get around, like, why can I not sell? Because I was growing, but also very slowly, because that still was just kind of figuring everything out. And I guess when I started wearing it, people were like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
And anything I put on there just sold. And again, I think whenever I do my photos, I always show like how to wear a piece in more than one way.
Okay.
And that's my little tip and trick when I model my stuff or I'm trying to sell a really expensive pre-loved garment, is to kind of be like, you buy this one piece, but you can wear it like for many more, different occasions, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was insane. Like I loved the Depop community when I started.
Yeah.
The team at Depop was really just pushing me into all these opportunities, sending me to events, getting me features in magazines. It was really incredible. And I think also Depop at that time was still very true and organic to, if it's a vintage piece, it is a vintage piece.
Yeah.
And I had to move away from Depop because I just realized, people selling something from China and saying it's 70s. And I just was like, first of all, I just fell into that whole like mainstream where it's like, I just felt like I lost myself. And I also felt like I can't be on a platform that's not true to, like it just was very confusing. And also, why would someone buy something for £80 when they can get something similar that is also saying it's vintage or pre-loved for £12?
Yeah.
So it definitely became harder. And then the whole team at Depop kind of moved on and changed. And I guess that was like when I had to move on as well, because I just felt like I've had my time, I've had my fame on here. And in order for people to take me very seriously is to launch my own platform. But growing thousands overnight was I just didn't understand. I was like, there must be someone behind my depop, just kind of throwing money at my platform. But yeah, it gave me so much opportunities, and especially being so new in London, it just gave me the opportunity to make friends and like this community. And, you know, I'm very lucky with like followers that's followed me from the start. You know, Depop followers that's now following my website and my Instagram, and they still buy from me. And it's just for me that as much as it's a business, it's also for me, I love that community I have, and, you know, customers coming back because they just love what I'm doing. And for me, that I'm always very grateful for.
It must feel great to be the kind of master of your own destiny now with your direct customer thing. You can decide what, how, when, how much, and like how it is presented to people.
Yeah.
I guess it's technology that's allowed us to do that, like the evolutions of Depop. You can sell through Shopify and stuff like that. Do you use something along those lines?
Yeah, so I use Squarespace.
Yeah.
But again, doing that, going from Depop where you kind of have a community and you've kind of got support, like a support network, going onto a website is definitely more challenging because you're losing that entire part of like,
digital footfall, basically, isn't it, kind of?
Yeah, and you get your features, or, you know, this week you are the top seller, which means you just sell out everything you have. But I just felt like it was time, and that's why I moved onto my own website, which I was like, I'm not technology focused. I built my own website.
Yeah.
However, Squarespace is definitely like the most child-friendly website.
Yeah. Sponsor us, Squarespace. You do everyone else.
I always tell everyone, I'm like, you need to do Squarespace. It's just easy. And I guess, it took a while to kind of for people to be like, you know, the people on my Depop to kind of move across and still follow me. Yeah. It was a big day for me to kind of shut down my Depop. I guess I didn't even shut it down. I just left it. Yeah, and then I kept getting notifications saying, this is going to expire. And I'm like, do I just post something to be active again? And then I was just like, it's so long gone. You need to know when to move on. Yeah. And to better things, basically.
Forward. So we mentioned about the big fashion houses there and how they sometimes do things that you don't necessarily agree with.
I think for me, as also independent business, it's so hard for us to make this a financial, you know, make it financially worth it for us, first of all. Yeah. Second of all, is to those designs that we've thought of and creating or like been planning for over years, that a corporate house, a big corporate house, will just take your design, copy it, make it, sell it for absolutely nothing. Yeah. And what can we do? We can't do anything about it.
You've not got the power, you've not got the lawyers, you've not got the
you don't.
Energy and time.
No, and I think it's more like the thought process behind us, you know, elevating our collections or changing it, or, you know, just figuring out what works for us, and then for a corporate house to just come and snatch it up and make thousands of our designs. It is heartbreaking, and it's deflating, because it's like we are competing with monsters. We are competing with like sharks, and they just have no sense of respect for small businesses or independent designers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to put the names out there if you don't want, but just so I'm understanding where you're coming from when you're talking about these big corporate houses, who are we talking about in particular?
Big fashion houses. I think just your big fashion houses that you find on Oxford Street. Okay. We're competing with that. And I've had so many big fashion houses that has taken my design and brought out a whole collection with a big influencer, selling it for up to nothing. And it's just soul destroying. Yeah. It really is soul destroying, and it's kind of like, what the hell? Why am I even trying? Yeah. Why am I even doing this? Because it's just like one step forward and 100 steps back, basically.
Fuck them dudes.
Fuck them.
I mean, that's the downside of it, obviously. But do you think there's anyone out there, any brands that you admire that you think do nostalgia in a really forward-thinking way?
I was thinking about that. I couldn't even think of anyone. I think I just respect independent brands. Yeah.
Well, maybe some of those then, not the big ones. Which people do you think are doing nostalgia? And some peers, some people, these independent brands.
One of my first friends in Brighton, I went to her shop. She's got a shop in Brighton, literally just by the station.
Shout them out. Who is it?
Alana.
Okay, pick up Alana.
And her shop is called New Wave.
Right.
And I walked in there, and she showed me this pair of leather pants, and she was like, "You need to have this." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to try it on." And because I liked it so much, I was like, "I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this." And we just started shooting content together outside the shop, and I was like, oh, "I'm going to become your friend."
Oh.
And she's like the Vivian of Brighton.
Okay.
Like she's definitely the more, punk, very 80s as well.
Yeah.
But for me, she's really like reflecting. Her collections are amazing. I think it's there's a certain aesthetic to it, but also it's very much for everyone. And also, it's not just a shop. It's a place where you can come and say hi and like always receive a warm welcome and kind of just for people to express themselves through the pieces that she sells. She's going to love me for saying all this.
Yeah, big up Alana. What's the shop called again? Sorry.
New Wave.
New Wave. All right.
New Wave Exchange.
Okay.
New Wave
on it.
Exchange.
Future's independent, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Was there any personal clothing epochs, eras that you look back at and think, what the fuck was I playing at there?
Jeggings.
Okay.
Jeggings is like...
A jegging is a jean, a tight spray-on, elasticated jean legging, right?
It is no offense to anyone rocking those, but honestly, it is probably the worst thing that could have been designed.
Yeah.
It's just I don't
But the
get
pockets like drawn on but not functional. It really is. I can see how much of a travesty this is to you.
Exactly. It's just for me. I don't understand where this concept came from, and who thought to pair leggings and jeans.
Yeah. And were you an owner of any jeggings?
Oh, I don't even want to say this out loud, but
Okay.
I definitely had a pair. And I don't know. I guess this was also like high school phase or something.
Right.
Jeggings, spaghetti top, and then maybe like your mum's platform heels.
Okay.
And like
What is
right
it?
now I'm like called the fashion police.
Tell me, what's a spaghetti top?
It's just like a little tank top and then like thin spaghetti straps,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, another one.
And that was quite a thing when you were a teenager, or like boob tube tops. But I was always a bit more like, I like more masculine clothing. So God knows how long I tried the jeggings and spaghetti tops, and I'm like mortified. But I tapped into that, and it's something that I would, if there's one thing I can take off the fashion scene, it's jeggings.
Okay. So I think we're increasingly seeing the fashion cycles work at smaller and smaller increments. We've had early 2000s influence for a long time, and late 2000s influence is creeping in now. Do you think the jeggings will ever circle back and people be wearing them ironically, or?
I hope they don't come back. If they do, I'll try to get rid of it.
I'm sure the way that most of those jeggings were manufactured probably means that they won't last very long and you won't be able to pick out.
If there's something I think that everyone rocks these days and that actually that works, is a pedal pusher.
Okay.
Which is like...
Bewitched era. Did you have Bewitched in South Africa?
I think that's also 90s. So it's like a legging, but it goes all the way up here.
Yeah.
And I think yay to that, but nay to jeggings. Absolutely nay to jeggings.
One of your most iconic items is the rodeo jacket. We've talked about it. It's adorned, as I said in the intro, some very chic shoulders over the past few years. It's got a big country and western influence. Can you tell me a little bit more about that item and the thought process behind it?
Fashion, like catwalk-wise, I was always very into the early Gucci collections, where it was kind of Western meets the 70s. I can't remember which year this was, but there was a specific collection, and I was like, this is great. Like, I do love the Western. I didn't know that I loved the Western that much up till I saw this Gucci collection.
Yeah.
And then I guess I just was frustrated with myself when I want to get dressed and, you know, dressed up, I'm like, I don't have that statement piece. I don't have enough of a statement piece to go out and stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
And then I got invited to an event and I was like, oh, my whole wardrobe was shit. Like I need a whole new outfit. Didn't have time to get a new outfit. So I took an old blazer, bought cheap fringe, and then I just hand sewn it onto him. It's the worst like making, but I did it and I wore it to this event. And people were absolutely raving about it. They were like, where do you get this fringe blazer from? Like, I absolutely love it. Where can I buy it from you? And I was like, oh my God, like this is... And I've been toying with that idea of really taking a blazer, a men's blazer, and changing it up. I don't know, cutting holes in it or like adding, you know, embroidered pieces to it. When I did that blazer and the response I got, I was like, that's exactly what we need.
Yeah.
In the pre-loved, you know, for all the pre-loved and the vintage lovers out there. And then COVID happened, and that was the perfect opportunity for me to really just think about this and actually be like, well, I have so much time on my hands now. Let me just kind of get this going.
And a lot of it was, I mean, hand sewn was the prototype, but from there, were you doing a lot of the physical labor of making these jackets yourself?
I do not even know how to work a sewing machine. And I wish I was not as stubborn when I was really young and just actually sat with my mum to like, you know, teach me how to do it.
She got skills.
She's got skills. Yeah. She can do from curtains to dresses and everything. I had this vision. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And then I started reaching out to seamstresses.
Yeah.
I refused to go through a factory.
Yeah.
And also I think what makes it, I had someone, and they were like, oh, it's such a nice little project, these rodeos you make, you know, it's like so cute. And I was like, there's so much labor and sourcing and time involved, because I source the men's blazers. It has to have a big lapel. It has to be double-breasted as well. And basically it takes over 9 hours to make. And I found the seamster, Laura, shout out to Laura. And I kind of told her my vision, and we just started it. And she created it for me. And I was like, it's to be sustainable, it doesn't give you, it's financially, it's not, you really have to have a passion for what you're doing. Yeah. Because also working with independent seamstresses, you are paying for their time and
the craft and their art.
And the craft and their art. And I think for me, I paid as much as I could to rather work with them than go to a factory. And also because each blazer are different, factories wouldn't even want to take me on because every blazer needs to be opened up. Every lining is different. There's always a different element to it. And this is where the time comes in. Yeah. So it's definitely, I think I've given them so much stress and grey hair because I just wanted to make this work. And they're like, we'll figure it out. And they've just been, and then Ruth is my other seamstress, and between the two of them, they've just really help MadSeventies stand out even more from just selling vintage, because there's so many vintage sellers out there. And the fact that they could just have created this 70s meets Western staple piece that no one really has ever done. Yeah. Yes, the fringe blazers have been made and you know, rodeo's been a big part in the fashion world, but that specific design, there's no other design out there like that, because it's all pre-loved, because every blazer is different. I know when you wear that blazer, you are the only person that's got that blazer. Yeah. And that just makes me really, really happy. Nice.
Do you know much about the history of a fringe blazer? Because, I mean, when I've seen country and western people wearing it, it's often been teamed with dance, and it looks incredible because of the flow and the way that it moves. Do you know if it had any kind of like practical purpose, or was it always an adornment? Because that kind of cowboy style is quite blingy. It's quite showy.
Yeah.
Any insight on that?
I think it's just like a horse. I think, you know, anyone that's got a horse is like, it's like such a powerful, it's like, you know, when you have a horse, I guess it's just like, it's
Power and beauty.
Power and beauty, yeah, power and beauty. And I think, I guess to kind of be in line with this horse of yours, like you just need to like dress the part as well. I have no idea. Like my ideas comes like, I don't know, in seconds, and then I just put it on paper and I just try to make it work. I don't do much research. I just kind of feels right, and
from an
exactly.
aesthetic place. Nice.
Yeah.
So the reworking process is kind of inherently eco-conscious. You know, you're taking something that already exists. It doesn't have to be produced again at massive ecological costs. How important to you is circularity and being mindful of the effects of selling clothes?
It's so important.
It's everything, right?
If it wasn't important, I probably would have started, I guess, again, saying, you know, getting opportunities from brands that wants to work with me, that wants to pay me good money, and I had to decline it. And it definitely puts you in a not the greatest place, because it's just going to the top much quicker. But for me, it is really, for me, I have a real passion for circulating fashion, and we know climate crisis, you know, it's here. Global warming is happening. But even before that really was like now a focus, I don't know, I've just always loved taking pre-loved or pieces that was loved by other people and to give that to someone else. It's like, what's that saying? One man's junk is another man's treasure.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess, for me, I just think, I believe you don't need to buy fast fashion to look fabulous. I honestly think, and also you don't have to spend a lot of money to look fabulous. I guess it's very much part of me. I know it's not easy for anyone to just go into a charity shop and, you know, put an outfit together. But this is why I'm using my platform as well. I feel the need, and I feel like it is my duty as well to having all these amazing followers that is supporting vintage, that is supporting, you know, the circulating of fashion. It's my duty to continue doing this.
Yeah. It only feels like it's in the past 4 or 5 years, like half of your lifespan of MadSeventies, that the kind of ecological effects of what the clothing industry actually does to the earth has been out there in the kind of mainstream. When you started doing it, was that not as much on your radar? And you've kind of, as you've got a little bit older, your knowledge about it's increased and you've realised that it's the thing to do, or was it always a concern? Like,
I think for me, I grew up knowing we do not waste, and you know, just kind of be cautious on like how you invest or what you buy, and I guess somehow it was ingrained with me for probably a very long time. But I guess when I was high school, I didn't think about the workers that gets exploited, you know, in India.
Your headspace just isn't that expanded as a kid.
No, I think at that time I was just like, I need to find my own identity, and like I can't and I won't wear the fashion that was available to me. But I guess depop, probably, even starting depop, I don't think I was that focused on. I knew I don't want to be another person buying another new piece that is shit quality. I think maybe in my subconscious mind I've always been like no waste, and also exploiting workers. I think that's a much more recent thing. I think when documentaries started coming out, showing the work environment that these people are in, and it just makes me absolutely ill. And I just can't, I wouldn't feel okay wearing a piece that I know these hands made. And that I feel very strongly about.
Top 3 selected.
We talked about music a bit at the beginning of the interview, and I was going to ask you for your top 3 fashion muses of the 70s, but I think you've answered that elsewhere. Answer me this. What are your top 3 records of the 70s to party to?
Oh, God. I wanted to say I don't have records. I guess artists.
Artists.
Again, Rolling Stones.
Okay.
I'll always get up and dance if you play Rolling Stones. Bee Gees. And then, of course, Debbie Harry. Okay. But then that is me having to give you 3. But I guess, 70s, 80s is always, I think it's, and then Elvis Presley as well.
All right.
I think Elvis Presley was a big part of me growing up, and just like feel-good music.
Yeah. Let me touch on a couple of them. Like the Elvis one, later in his life, he was wearing a lot of fringe stuff. And I've only realised this, having spoken to you today, that might have been an influence there.
I think that's where I think even not knowing, I was like, because he did have incredible fringe garments, and he had, I just think his fashion was incredible.
Yeah.
I think, suits meeting 80s, shiny disco blouses with like big, aviator sunglasses. I'm like, how does that not look good? So I think for me, Elvis was definitely that part of like the suit. And even saying that, I do remember when I was going through my dad's wardrobe, I would take his blazers and I'll wrap a belt around it, and try to create this like suit look, which just didn't work, but that was me kind of tapping into.
That's wild that we're doing that at such an early age, like tweaking shapes, taking something and putting your twist on it.
And I think I was more drawn to oversized things, and I think that has always been my thing, to buy things that's bigger.
Yeah.
Because there's more scope in styling it in more than one way.
Okay.
Rather than a fitted piece, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was just thinking some of the poses that Elvis is most known for seem almost designed to showcase the shape of his clothes. Like you could almost see him from his silhouettes with outstretched arms, leaning back, like and fringes dripping in certain directions.
Yeah.
It seems like he was very aware of the clothes that he was wearing and how best to present them. I think
fashion was a big part. I think fashion in those eras was so much more appreciated.
Yeah.
I think really I think those artists really thought about their looks, where I think now we're just all surviving and we're in this crazy world, crazy time, where we just need to get by. But I think in that time, I think fashion was just like so much part of like eating and breathing.
Yeah.
And that's why I draw so much inspiration from those artists.
Yeah, yeah.
I think even for them going to a diner, they look fucking cool.
Yeah, for real.
How do you go and eat a burger and still look this great?
The Bee Gees, when I was little, they were almost a band of ridicule. Like the voices are almost inherently, I mean, obviously they're incredible singers, but they sounded silly to me when I was little. The falsetto, the kind of hyper stylized nature. But quite recently, I've listened to which one? I listened to a Bee Gees album all the way through. No, it wasn't that one. I think it might have been a little bit later. It's got a bit that goes. Oh
yes.
Like a weird time signature on it.
Yeah.
I was like, this slaps. This is groovy. This is funky, and just master songwriters.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate them that much years and years ago.
Yeah, and then it's a bit later when you've given them more time that you realise they're.
I think when I'm in a sad space or a sad place, or I feel, wow, I really need some uplifting, that's what I put on.
Yeah.
When I walk down the street, and I'm like, this is good. I feel so much better.
How do you walk down the street when you've got Bee Gees in your ears? There must be.
Well, I'm trying to not make my body.
There must be. I know I walk differently when I've got music on. It might be subtle.
Oh yeah, you've got like a little spring in your step.
Obviously not going to do full dance moves down the street, but
I sometimes have to stop myself from singing as well, because you have your earphones. You're like, oh god.
I reckon you get away with that in Brighton.
You can.
Beautiful.
And the outfits were incredible as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Is there a best dressed Bee Gee? I know they always.
They like as a collective.
I
feel like as a collective, they just looked incredible.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like, me and Hannah went through our phase of Cher. Like there's just too many. There's too many, but it's great because it's just like I can draw inspiration from so many of these artists.
From the outside, it looks like you live, eat and breathe clothes. Okay. What do you like to do to switch off for it all from a bit?
This is the big problem. I do not switch off.
Ever?
On Saturday morning, I have my little routine. I go get my takeaway coffee, and then I go browse. However, saying that, I've definitely incorporated more self-love. Going through like a difficult period, I had to learn to take care of myself more. And that means, you know, going for, I think my new favorite thing is like having brunch and a mimosa.
Okay. That sounds very fun.
Very like...
Never too early.
And it's just kind of like, that for me is like something I've never incorporated really into my lifestyle. And I just think like do take that time for yourself. I think running a business, having social media, it's a very slippery slope because you can get really caught up into not taking care of yourself. And also it's really hard when you are on social media, you start comparing yourself with others and like their lives are so perfect. So me doing, you know, despite my morning routine, incorporating brunch and mimosas is like, that's like...
Every day we're talking here.
Well, no, of course not. Like weekends. I think weekends is like when I do these things, but also not every weekend. But that's like a speciality for me. And I've met amazing people in Brighton. Like I've made more friends in Brighton in the last 6 months than I've done in London for the 12, like, you know, living in London for 12 years.
Please, yeah.
And it's just, I also, there's a sense in Brighton where you can do things on your own. I never knew how to do that. There was always a person. And now it's kind of like, wow, like, you know, doing lunch by yourself or breakfast or having that time for yourself is just actually so, so important.
The other thing you mentioned there was the kind of pressures of social media. You know, as wonderful as it is and as amazing as it is, as amazing as the opportunities that it affords us are, it's designed to be all-consuming. It's designed to keep you on there at all hours, interacting in whatever way possible, and you really have to fight against it to reclaim these little spaces like what you've mentioned in your life. I know that you not only use it for business, but for maybe sharing, talk about mental health and for, you know, you talked about the comparisons that people make on there, like shining light on how that's not necessarily a healthy thing. Could you tell us a little bit more about that side of it for you?
Yeah, I think when I started MadSeventies, I thought, okay, this is my platform just to post when I sell products or, you know, only just fashion. And then one day I posted this picture of me having a coffee and people were just like, my story went absolutely viral. People were like, oh my God, this is so nice to like see MadSeventies doing, you know,
a normal thing.
It's the behind the scenes or like, you know, what you're up to, which as exciting as that is, it's kind of also created now that like, now you kind of feel like you have to keep that up. And I feel, you know, it's great. It's nice for people to see what I'm up to. I think so. I think, you know, we follow one another to see what we're up to. But there's also a big part of me, when I went through a really dark space, I was back home in South Africa and I posted this video of by the sea or an outfit, me walking on the beach and something. And then one of my followers messaged me and said, oh my God, I want your life. And I was just like, and it didn't sit well with me at all because I was like,
am I painting here?
What am I painting for you? And, you know, that was me, but that's not how I am at the moment. And I just put a post out saying, you know, don't believe everything social media shows you. We select what we want you to see. There's so many of us like takes a picture or selfie smiling, but inside we are so fucking sad or we're just like depressed. And I think the scary part of social media is we basically stalk one another. Which is not the scary part. We stalk one another's lives. We know what's going on in each other's lives. That's where the problem comes in because we see, oh, you know, Mia's out having brunch and mimosas. She's doing great. But we've also stop checking in on one another, because we feel like what we see on there is like, oh, they're doing great.
Yeah.
And I can't, and I think also growing up in South Africa, generations from, my family, we've all had mental health struggles. But in South Africa, it was like it was a taboo thing.
Yeah.
You don't talk about mental health. You don't talk about your sadness, because you almost like classified as a bit of a mental case, or like, not stable enough. And it's taken me 34 years to actually realize this is so important to incorporate this in conversations. And I also do feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, for us having a platform with like thousands of followers, it is our duty to not reflect, this fake life.
Yeah.
I don't talk about mental health every day, but I am trying to be more real.
It sounds like you do everything else authentically, and that was maybe the last piece of the puzzle that you needed to put into your output. And it's another of those things that just helps you sleep better at night and feel like you're doing it for the right reasons.
I definitely, I think we're just all trying to survive, and we're all trying to pretend we're okay, but a lot of us is not okay. And I think we just need to feel like talking about it, talking about your feelings and how you feel is just, it's okay and it's normal. And I think that, in my opinion, I think women speaks about mental health more.
Yeah.
Because we are more chatty and we share more things. And I feel like, that's something that men also needs to really like feel like this is okay and this is comfortable to talk about my feelings and that I'm not okay. So, yeah.
I'm the other way around. I look miserable as fuck on Instagram, but then you meet me in real life, I'm actually not that bad. But yeah, it shows. It's a facade, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. I've met people and they're like, my God, my one friend said to me, I saw you on Instagram, and then I was like, I'm going to meet you. And she was like, I just think you're like not a nice person. And then they met me and it's like, oh my God, you're like the nicest person. And I think again, that is the social media.
Yeah.
MadSeventies has that like stern.
Resting bitch face.
Resting bitch face. Exactly.
I've got it bad.
But but at the same time, it's kind of like, just remember, that's just the platform. That's what we want you to see.
Yeah.
Don't just assume that is exactly it, basically.
Next hype.
Mia, tell us, what is next for you? What is 24 looking like for you and the brand?
For me, I want to get to a place where I'm very much content and feel very settled in Brighton. I think this year's definitely had its challenges. And again, I've learned that your happiness, in order to make success of anything, you have to be happy and content in yourself. And I think that's probably my biggest thing for next year. I really want to continue doing the rodeos. But again, it's that thing, it's very time consuming, it's very costly. But at the same time, I have this amazing platform and I want to continue reworking pieces. I think I'll never stop selling vintage either. I think I have the eye for it, and I guess, I hope I have the skill to, do that. So, do drops of vintage. I definitely want to travel more the world. I think for me, something that I would absolutely love to do is tap into consulting and helping sustainable businesses to grow.
Because you've been doing it for a long, long time now.
Yeah, and I think, to be kind of that all-rounder, like what to do with your social media, like how to, what's your niche for clients. I think for me, I've worked with my social media clients, it's been like from vintage furniture to gardening to fashion, lifestyle. And I just think like I would really enjoy helping other brands that has the same approach to fashion and the same morals and values to help them get to an amazing place. And to be a successful business. So that's something I'm definitely looking into for a more long-term plan.
Final question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you care about clothes?
100.
10,000? 10,000?
Millions.
It sounds it. Like most people that I've spoken to say that they love them, but then there are times when they do other things. From what I've gleaned today, it sounds like it is all day, every day for you.
It's definitely, I think for me, fashion is more than just clothing. It's a way to express yourself. It's a way to feel better about yourself as well. I can't express like how a good outfit can change your mood. Give you a sense of confidence as well, which is like crazy because that's just a piece of garment. Yeah, I love when I see people wearing an outfit and I can see them feeling confident in it, especially when they wear MadSeventies and they might style it completely different than me, but I absolutely embrace that and I absolutely love seeing, you know, that piece of garment can make you feel that good. So yeah, I'm probably a little obsessed with fashion.
Stay obsessed, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I think because growing up, I think I've learned it was an outlet for me to survive and to find my identity, and I will always be grateful for that. So yeah, fashion.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? Yeah. Beautiful. Sounds like a good place to end it. Thanks a million for doing it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great nice to see you as well.
Yeah, you too. What a gem. Love Mia. Can't thank her enough for coming through for a chat. That's about that for this episode. Don't forget to follow us on the socials for those lovely bite-sized clips. If you see a reel that makes you feel something, then defo share it to your stories. We'll be back later in the week with a fit pick breakdown from Mia, so make sure you're subscribed to the feed for that one. Nice one for listening. Catch you soon.